Potomac Bead Company, and I am going to be showing you today how to do a bracelet build of our exclusive new IrisDuo beads. I'm going to be calling this component-based bracelet the Firefly Bracelet. It features our exclusive RounTrio beads as well as our new IrisDuo beads. If you'd like to make the Firefly Bracelet, I'll be listing out the materials. You can shop with me at PotomacBeads.com. Or you can go below the video to the date stamp, which says when the video was created and when it was published. And below that, there's a little information that says show more. Click on that and it'll give you links to purchase all of these materials from me online or to your local Potomac Bead Company store to purchase there as well. If you would like to do the Firefly Bracelet, you are going to need some IrisDuo beads, which if you haven't used them yet, the IrisDuo is our 2-hole iris or kind of marquee shaped bead that has the 2 holes running lateral there, and it has a flat back and a rounded side. I'm going to be using 2 different colors for the Firefly. You can use 1 or 2 colors. I'm going to use the pastel violet here for the wings of the Firefly, and then for my connectors I'm going to be using the Aztec Gold IrisDuos. For each component you'll need 4 of the purple, and then you'll need 1 Aztec to connect. For the bracelet, you're going to be looking at about 6 components. If you want to, you can also do this as a pair of earrings, and you'll use less components, obviously just 2 for that connection. In addition to the IrisDuos, we are using the RounTrios. I'm using one of the newer colors. This is the white iris, which is kind of a purple, metallic-y, has a little bit of hint of a gold Picasso look to it, and we'll be using those in the middle of our component. In addition to that, on the sample piece here, I have some 11/0 demi-rounds, some 15s, and some 11/0 seed beads. I'm going to be cutting out the demi-rounds because I didn't really feel like they were necessary, and I'll just be using 15s in place of the demi-rounds. I have 2 different colors of seed beads, both Miyuki brand. One is 11/0 and one is 15/0. In the 11/0, I have the galvanized dark mauve color, the Duracoat galvanized dark mauve. And then in the 15/0, the blush lined crystal, which brings a little bit of lightness to the project. The whole thing is going to be done and clasped with a cut button. And this cut button here is the apricot color. We'll be working with some Wildfire beading thread, and I have 0.006 Wildfire beading thread. And it's 2 needles. So we have 2 size 12 beading needles that are going to be at the end of our thread. Because we are using the thread and the needles, I like to have a thread zap handy to burn the thread off the spool, as well as burn the ends of the thread when the project is finished. Likewise, because we are using the burner and the thread, I have a needle nose pliers here. This one's bent in order to flatten out the end of the thread to make it easier to thread the needle. To start this Firefly bracelet, we're going to be going from the outside and then coming back towards the inside and kind of connecting the dots there basically. So I want you to get 5 feet of your beading thread with a needle on either end, little piles of each of your beads, and we will get ready to start our design. So the great thing with working with 2 needles is that we get to put on the clasp right away. I find it really easy to teach new beginner beaders how to do bracelets when there's multiple needles, even though it confuses a little bit with 2 needles at a time. It's done in symmetry, everything's done in the same order, and it allows you to put on your clasp first. So to start out, we have our cut button here, and we're going to add our clasp. To add the clasp, throw an 11, 15, and 11 onto one of your needles. Next, take your cut button with the bowl side facing down and put 1 needle through the left hole and 1 needle through the right hole. Pull the needles out equal distance so you make sure that your thread is centered, and that creates a little button end for your bracelet. From here, take 3 15s on both the right and left needle and let those drop down to the back of the button. Once they're on the back of the button, I want you to grab an 11/0 seed bead, and the 11/0, we're going to put both needles through the 11/0 going in the same direction. So 1 needle is going to go through, and then the other needle is going to go through, again the same direction. and push those down next to the button. That creates a little Y for the button to sit in and gets our button in the very end and ready to go. From here, we're going to add our first of our IrisDuo beads, and the first IrisDuo we're going to add is the connector bead, so it's going to be one of our gold, our Aztec gold beads. To add the Aztec gold bead, we're going to be doing a lot of kind of crossing through the connector beads. One needle is going to go from the right and one needle is going to go through the left through the same hole. To get there, add again 3/15 on the left and both the right needle. If you need to and you're not comfortable working with two needles at once, you can sit one down and grab the other one with your right or left hand, whichever hand dominant you are. From here, we're going to crisscross through our IrisDuo. The first IrisDuo, it does not matter which hole you go through. The ones after this, you want to make sure that they're all facing in the same direction. Again, one needle is going to go through the hole from the right to the left and the other from the left to the right. When you put those through, again, you want to pull your thread equal distance so that way it drops down right into that little V and that you have the same amount of thread on either side. From here, we're going to decorate the sides of the IrisDuo, and the side of the IrisDuo is going to be decorated with 3/15. Grab 3 of your 15-0s with the right needle and take that right needle into the second hole of that IrisDuo, the top hole, towards the left-hand side. With the needle that is currently on the left at the bottom hole, add 3 more 15s and cross that thread to the right side through the upper hole. When you're going through the IrisDuos and coming out the holes, you want to make sure that your thread is not going through any of those 15-0 seed beads. From here, it's time to start our component. To start the component, we're going to be going down the whole bracelet and we're going to be coming back down and back up multiple times. For the first pass, what we're going to do is concentrate on our outer edge here. The outer edge is going to be made up of 11 O's and 15 O's next to the IrisDuos, and then our other IrisDuo color. When we're doing the purple IrisDuo, we want to make sure that we are catching on the left-hand side those outer holes, and on the right-hand side, the outer holes. So if you need to, you can set up your IrisDuos and make sure that we're catching the outer edge of the holes. With the right needle here, we're going to go in and put on 1/15 after the IrisDuo and 1/11. Picking up the outer hole then of the first IrisDuo on the left-hand side or the right-hand side, you're going through the right-hand hole of the IrisDuo as it's facing upward. From here, we're going to put some 15 or 11 O's rather in the center connecting point. So you're going to add 8 of your 11 O's on your needle. This can actually change up if you like the design of a more delicate edge. You can actually add 15s rather than your 8s, or I'm sorry, rather than your 11s. If you want a thicker side, you can add some 8s. That's up to you. Once you have 8, 11 on, you're going to add the next IrisDuo in that purple color. Once this is done on the right side and push down, it's time to do it also on the left. So again, this time I'm on the left side, so I'm going through the left-hand hole of the IrisDuo after adding a 15 and an 11. Go through that outer hole of the IrisDuo, add my 8 11s, and then add my next IrisDuo through that outer hole. At this point, if you want to, you can kind of put the project down and make sure that the IrisDuos, when you're holding them out on the sides, face up in a line. That way you know you have that whole outer edge. From here, you're going to repeat what we did around the gold IrisDuo. Add a 11 and a 15. Then picking up the IrisDuo with the needle on my left, I'm going to take it towards the right-hand side. Needle that's on the right, add an 11 and a 15. And then go through that bottom hole towards the left. Give a tight pull, and that first outer edge is completed. You can see you can kind of position the beads in like that to see the look. From here, we're going to progress from the first hole of that Iris Duo to the second hole, which is going to be done with 3 15s. After the 3 15s, take your needle from one side of the Iris Duo to the other side. Pick up the other needle and repeat. 3 15s go on, and the needle goes from the right to the left. Give a nice tight pull after this, and then we're going to progress through the bracelet, adding in 5 to 6 more, depending on your wrist size, of your little outer edge here of your bead. Right now it looks very rounded. Keep in mind it's going to get a little bit more oval in shape, which will increase the length of the bracelet. To touch it, you can, or to test the length as you progress, you can kind of touch the Iris Duos at the points, and that'll give you more of the shape that you desire to know the actual length. So continue on adding your outer edge of your Firefly bracelet. Once you have your 6 to 7 outer components completed, it's time to do the loop for your button clasp. So to do the loop for the button clasp, I'm coming out of my last gold Iris Duo, and I'm going to mimic what I did on the end here with the button. Instead of a button, I'll be making a loop of seed beads. I'll make the loop of seed beads with my 11-0 seed beads here, using about 26 to 28 of those seed beads. Coming out the last Iris Duo, go ahead and add 3 15s to both the right and the left needle, and on one of them put one 11-0. With the other needle, after you put on the 3 15s, take the needle and go through that same 11-0, going in the same direction. So both threads are going to be coming out the top of that 11-0 seed bead. From here, it's time to make my loop. You can do one needle at a time, again adding those seed beads. So I'm going ahead here and adding in my 26 to 28 seed beads and just my 11-0s. As we come down the project, if you want to, you can do a peyote stitch loop to make it look a little bit fancier. And you want your loop big enough for your button to fit in. If you're doing a regular clasp, a push clasp, a lobster clasp, a toggle clasp, up to you. You can use some wire guards, and you would do that now as well. After you have your loop big enough, the needle that you currently have in hand is going to go back through that same 11-0 that you shared and give a nice tight pull. The opposite needle now, pick that one up, go back through the loop, which is going to reinforce that clasp section. After going through the loop then and reinforce, both thread and needles are going to be coming out that singular point of that 11-0. I want to make sure to pull at this point both the thread ends, so that way the Y, or that V kind of section, sits right nice and tightly along the top of that last Iris Duo, and also that you don't see any thread. From here, we want to get from the outer section of the Iris Duos to the inner section of the Iris Duo in order to add our RounTrio that kind of sits right on the top there. To get from the outer to the inner, I want you to take your thread and needle in your right hand and go down that whole line of seed beads on the right. The 3 on the end of the Iris Duo and the 3 to the outer edge that you added. From here, progress through the 15-0 seed bead next to the Iris Duo, the 11-0 seed bead, and the first of your violet Iris Duos. Do that on both the left needle and also with the right needle as well. So again, working with 2 needles, pretty much it's going to be the exact same thing always, both left and right. As I get to the intersection then of the Iris Duo, going to get ready to go from the first hole of the Iris Duo, which is the outer hole that we went through, to the inner hole. I'm going to do that with both needles. That then is going to get us set up in order to add our middle. So both needles are kind of coming out right along there in the middle of the Iris Duo, and we'll get ready now to add the intersection here of our thread in order to make a base for our round trios to sit on. To connect the intersection here of that Firefly, we're going to use a 15-0. So I have my one needle in my hand, and it happens to be the needle that's on the right. Pick up the 15-0, sew through the other Iris Duo that the thread is actually coming out of. Give a nice tight pull, and that'll pull those purple Iris Duos right next to one another. Add 4 11-0s onto your needle. And grab the next Iris Duo down and sew through that inner hole. And that's going to create that little base for it to set on. On the inside here then, grab your next 15, sew through that bottom Iris Duo on the right, and then take your needle and thread from that inner hole there and just kind of take it and let it hang out. On the opposite side, I'm going to take my thread and needle through the 15 that I just put on and through the Iris Duo. Add 4 of my 11s and sew through then the Iris Duo, the 15, and the Iris Duo. So the threads, you're having 2 threads that are crossing between the Iris Duos at the top and the Iris Duos at the bottom. This creates our little kind of circular oval little track for us then to go ahead in and stick our round trio right in the center. From here, we're going to add our round trio onto our needle. The round trio is going to first have a 15-0 put on and then go through one of the outer holes of the round trio. After that, put another 15-0 on your round trio. And then right now the thread is coming out on the right-hand side. I'm going to go through that 15 and the Iris Duos on the right towards the left. On the left-hand side, I'm going to repeat this, which is going to pull that into a little bit of a dome shape. Here on the side, get your 15. The trio is already on, and I'm going to grab the outer hole on the opposite side. Put another 15 on, and we're going to sew through the Iris Duo, the 15, and the Iris Duo at the top. Give a nice tight pull, which will take away most of the thread that you can see on the project. Like I said, it's going to sit that it's bumped up a little tiny bit, and we are almost done that inner component there, and we're going to progress to the outside to then continue with the design. The needle that's on the right hand side is going to go through the 15 that we just added. Add 15s that are going to sit on the side of the Iris Duo here. So we're going to add 5 more 15s, or round duo rather, and go through the 15 and the Iris Duo on the side there. You can see that decorates the side. You'll see a little bit of the 15s above, or a little bit of the 11s below the 15s. From here, take the thread and needle from the left, or on the left-hand side of that first Iris Duo, and go through the 15 and the Iris Duo. And let that just hang out there. On the left-hand side, repeat, going through the 15. So we're letting the middle hole of the Iris Duo open, just in case you're keeping track, or of the round trio rather. Keep wanting to call it something else, the round trio. 5 more 15s go on, through that 15 next to the trio. Pull that thread nice and tight. Go through the Iris Duo, the 15, and the IrisDuo. Again, give a nice tight pull with both threads so that way you don't see as much thread exposed. From here, it's time to get to the next component and repeat. To get to the next component, the thread's going to go along the side here, from the inner hole to the outer hole of the IrisDuo, and then from there, we're just going to snake around through that gold IrisDuo down along the seed beads along the side here. So you're just basically retracing your steps. And once you retrace your steps along the side then, and get your needle in position, you are ready to start that same process over, adding in your next round trio to your Firefly bracelet. So go ahead now and add the round trio in as we progress, continuing on to add in all the center sections. After going down the line, you can see that the bracelet is becoming a little bit more oval rather than that roundedness to it. You have the bracelet then that goes right to the end. And I got a little excited. I kept going and I forgot to film, so I apologize for you guys. When you're finished, you're just going to go right down along the clasp, along the side of the last Aztec gold bead, go through the clasp 2 times, one with the needle going through one way, one with the needle going through the other way, and I brought the thread and needle back the whole way back the project till I'm coming out right at the same place on the innermost section of my last component. That way, when I go in and take these 2 threads that went along the back here, crisscrossed through the IrisDuo, came out here, crisscrossed through the IrisDuo, and I brought them back to the middle, I'm just simply going to tie the thread ends together, right over left and then left over right, or switch hands like I do. And that way you make sure you get your squared knot in there. Do a couple squared knots, grab your burner, heat up your burner. Go in then and burn down the edges of the thread. When you have about 1/8 of an inch left, go ahead then and burn the thread edges down. At that point, your Firefly bracelet is completed. If you want to, you can go back into the design and actually add 2 15s on either side, or on every side rather, of your IrisDuo, which is going to kind of flow down from your round trio. That's kind of up to you. And like I said, this is really component based. You can, if you want to, do a pair of earrings where it would just be the one component with the IrisDuo hanging out. You can also switch out the round trio for a round duo, or if you want a little bit more blingy look, switch it out for a faceted round trio. Again, if you need any of the materials to do this fun Firefly bracelet, you can go back to the beginning of the video where I list out the different materials that you can get, or below the video to the date stamp that says when the video was created. That way you can get links to purchase from me online if you want. Also, you can subscribe to this YouTube channel, send links to friends, and get regular updates on when we come out with new products like the IrisDuo, new designs, and new videos for you. You can also shop with me online, like I said, at PotomacBeads.com. Stay connected with us there on our website, as well as stay connected with us on Instagram and on Pinterest and on Facebook. On Facebook, you can also ask to become a member of our Facebook group for beading and jewelry making. Show us what you create, ask questions, share design ideas, get inspiration, and interact with a wonderful group of people. As always, thank you so much for watching this fun Firefly IrisDuo bracelet, and enjoy creating